Hi everyone. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about the summary and response essay and the planner that you're going to be working on so that you have an idea of what you're doing and why you're doing this planner. So basically, a summary response essay is when you examine a text and you summarize it and then you respond to it. It's one of the most basic forms of writing. Although your essays may not always be called summary response essays, anytime a teacher asks you to read a text or watch a movie or read a chapter or look at a video and then respond to it, what they're asking for is essentially summary response writing. One of the first things you do in summary response writing is you include a summary of the text. You include that because you want to give the reader an idea of what the text is about, some of the main ideas, and give them a context. So you include up front in the beginning of your paper, after your introduction, a summary of the text that you'll be talking about. In this case, you're going to be summarizing and responding to the article that you chose as you're reading to, that you chose from that folder of options. So there were three there. The one about mental health, conflating the terms of mental health and mental health issues and the kind of getting into the terminology, and the one about women in the workforce, and the one about cancel culture. Those are your three options. So you're going to be responding to one of those three, whichever one you chose. You'll use your additional source, reading three, that you found on your own on the databases to supplement your opinions. But essentially, what you're doing is responding to whether or not you think the article was well constructed. Instead of like with the personal essay, which was you responding on a personal level, did it impact your life? Did you feel something? Did you empathize with it? Did you dislike it? As opposed to that, in this essay, the summary response essay, you're going to be focusing more on the rhetorical elements, meaning the construction of the essay. Is it effective? Is the evidence effective? Is the tone effective? Was it well constructed? Did it meet its purpose of either informing or entertaining or persuading? So that's going to be your focus in this essay. You're going to basically be summarizing and responding to whichever of those three articles that you chose. So that's an idea of what you need to do so that we can kind of look at the planner itself. I want you to have an idea of what you're going to be doing with the summary and response essay itself. That's why if you look at the list of steps I told you to go through to complete this assignment of the planner, one of the steps is to read the assignment details and get a really firm idea of what summary response is. So I'm just going to go back to the planner, which is your actual task. So this week, coming up on March 6th, Sunday, March 6th, you're going to have the thesis and outline planner due. So the planner looks like this. It asks for ideas for attention grabber and hook. It asks for thesis statement, and you'll see one of the first things that you're going to do after this introductory paragraph is write a summary paragraph, and then you're going to get into the body of the paper. And it asks for main points and some examples and details of things you can include in there. And here, it asks for the outside source support. So it's asking for the APA citation. And what I would like you to write here is a little bit about how you're going to incorporate your outside source, your reading three, and then just include the APA citation so that I know that you're talking about that outside source, which is reading three. You'll see there's a place for it in each of the paragraphs. I actually don't mind if you can't work it into every single paragraph. I do want you to mention it in your paper because what you're trying to do is integrate another source into the paper to help you, through comparison, evaluate what's going on with your original source. That sounds complicated, but I'm going to kind of explain how you might do that when I look at the questions that I've written for you. So really what you're doing, and you can see here, it's asking for basically three main points. So I've done something similar to what you did with the personal essay, and I've created a document that I'm linking in the announcements that essentially asks some questions that would be good things to answer in these topic sentences. Good points of discussion. So you just pull up those questions that I made. And like I said, I will link this in the announcement. And you can see that I have 6 options here. You need to come up with 3. So you can pick 3 of these and come up with a way to answer them. And each of these will be the basis of a paragraph. So let's say you pick 1, 3, and 5. So your first body paragraph will be about answering this first question of, does the author include effective evidence? Is there any specific piece of evidence or type of evidence that they did not include but should have? Then your point 3 would be, or your second point of the second body paragraph would maybe be answering question number 3. You can see where I'm going with this. So you're going to pick out 3 of these questions you want to answer, because these are questions that focus in on the rhetorical elements of this paper. Now, I do recommend that you try and push yourself to include maybe 2 weaknesses and a strength, or 2 strengths and a weakness, some kind of balance. Try and see if you can avoid completely trashing the article or completely praising the article, because it's a good idea as a critical thinker to really push yourself to look at the article as a whole. Are there any weaknesses? If so, address them. What we have here with these questions are opportunities to respond to the text, and I tried with some of them to give a clear idea of how you might incorporate the third article. So, for example, this first question, does the author include effective evidence? Is there any specific piece of evidence or type of evidence they did not include but should have? So let's say I'm answering that for my source. And the first thing I want to say is, I'm going to download it. What I want to say here for my first point is, maybe that's my response to the question. And I'm going to give some reasons that I think that. So I'll probably, since I said in my topic sentence, this article included excellent interviews and anecdotes. So maybe this here, I would just explain like interview with lady who is tall. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I'm just making this up right now. Anecdote from dude who said wasn't his job to help. I don't know. I'm just, again, making this up. So those are my pieces of support for why there's excellent interviews and anecdotes that I think prove her point. For my outside source support, I might say, okay, again, made up statistic, whatever. So then I have this quote, and then I have the APA citation from my other source. So I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm, again, making it up, making it all up. But this source that I have here, This is my outside source, and I'm going to use it to explain that there are a lot of really good statistics out there that prove this author's point, and I found one in my outside source that I read, and I wish that this author had included that statistic. So you can see that some of these questions give you an opportunity to think about how you could incorporate your source. So for example, what was the author's tone in the article and was it effective or not? Did your outside source provide a better or worse tone in their article? You can use the comparison between the two articles there to really say whether or not the article you're evaluating, which is to say article number 2, reading number 2, that's the one you're evaluating. You're not evaluating both here. That's why you're only going to write a summary of article 2 in the paper. You are only assessing article number 2 that you chose from those 3 options in the class folder, and you're using your outside source to supplement that response. So be careful with that. But this question, you could compare the two to figure out whether or not your original article did a good job with tone. So let's say you think yes, that the tone of the article that you read, that you selected from the 3 options, was actually really accessible and easy to read, whereas the one that you found on EBSCOhost was entirely too academic and hard for the average person to understand. You can then respond with something like, the author's tone in the article was perfect for a group of people who are parents who want to be informed about working conditions. And it was easy. The word choices were easy to understand. The evidence was easy to understand. The article was short enough to read in a span of time that you could take in the information, as opposed to my outside source, which actually had a tone that wouldn't work for a lot of modern audiences. It was really only for academics. So it wasn't as informative to sort of like the larger public of parents. That's an example of something you could do. You can see that I've tried to write in opportunities for you to think about how you might incorporate the outside source. Like, does the author offer a counter argument? If not, what are some possible counter arguments? So if your original article, one of the 3 from the folder, didn't include a counter argument, but your outside source does, then you could say, here's a really good counter argument that they could have used that I found in this source, and then quote the outside source. So these are just some examples of how you can get the outside source in if that was confusing you. And so this is posted. These are the questions that you can click on through the announcement that I think are going to help in guiding you through creating this outline.